You're listening to Two Bobs, conversations on the art of creative entrepreneurship with David C. Baker and Blair Enns.
David, one of our highest performing episodes was the excellent episode on Secrets of the Killer Proposal. Remember that one?
Yeah, lots of fantastic chatter back and forth too. A little bit of confusion. People would step in and kind of clear the air and help people understand what we were talking about.
Afterwards on social media. Yeah, it was fantastic.
Yeah, exactly.
So similar vein, I think we talked about it in that episode, or maybe a subsequent episode, Secrets of the Killer website. So we're giving away all the good stuff here.
Pretty soon we're going to be working at Starbucks or something.
Yeah. Would you like fries with that?
Or Tim Hortons, your inferior version.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for the Canadian reference. So why are we covering Secrets of the Killer website? You know, most of the listeners here a lot of them are in the website business. They all have websites. They all work in some ways or have offered guidance on websites. Surely they know what they're doing.
You'd think they would. I'm kind of disheartened because if you fly way up high and look down on my business, maybe a third of it is M&A work, maybe a third to a half. And then the rest of it is split broadly between two consulting packages. One is a new business audit and the other is the total business reset. But both of them include all kinds of deep work on positioning, which I absolutely love to do. But that stuff is like, if you get your positioning right, that's like wetting your pants in a dark suit. You get a warm feeling, but nobody notices. And so unless your website represents your positioning, then it's just sort of wasted effort. And that's what's disappointing to me, because when I go back 3 months later and I look at a client's website and I think, wait a second, this just doesn't pay it out. It's wasted effort. So it's not anger. It's just sort of frustration that it feels like great positioning decisions that a lot of people are making it's just not showing up in a website that works for them.
I'm sorry, I was just writing down wedding pants in a dark suit onto the David Baker metaphor list.
That's for my dad.
And it's not anger. It's just it's a little bit of anger. All right, we're going to get into this. So you have all these different variables. You're about to give advice to people in the website business, some of whom are in the website business, on what they should be doing better on their website.
Seems a little pretentious.
And remember, these are secrets to the killer website.
Yeah, right.
So let's start with platform. What are we building this thing on? Surely your advice is to go get a standard CMS, something like WordPress, right?
If you didn't think too much about it, that'd probably be your decision. After all, if you're not a WordPress expert, there's lots of people out there that can do it, probably even in your neighborhood, down the street, maybe, some kid that goes to school with your kid or something like that. And I can see that making sense in some cases, but choosing a platform for your website is not just about your website. It's about the platform that you want to develop in for many, many years. And so if you do your website in WordPress, which on the surface kind of makes sense, all of a sudden you're committed to that platform. And if you're already doing websites for people or you're going to do them in the future, you're kind of going to need to do them in your website, because what kind of message do you send if you tell a client, listen, we built ours in Drupal or Ruby on Rails or Joomla or something like that, but no, you should do it in WordPress. That's not going to make sense to them. So the whole point is you really need to choose a website platform that's also the one that you want to develop in. And point number 2 is it should be a platform that hardly anybody else uses.
Yeah.
Because
I'm going to die on the Flash hill. I'm just saying.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah.
That's the great thing about Flash is it's really hard. If you choose that as a platform, then there's a really powerful advantage. For one thing, sort of the load speed is fantastically slow, so people kind of have to look at it.
Yeah, slows it down nicely, doesn't it?
Right. So they're staring right at it.
Yeah. It's like a captive audience. It's like selling gum in an airport.
If you want to increase the average visit time on your site, Flash is absolutely the best way to do that, because just by definition, they have to stay there while the thing loads. But
most of our listeners, they're not sophisticated enough to make a decision like choosing Flash. So if it's not Flash, if you don't want to go full creative with Flash, what are some more obscure platforms that you recommend they build their site on?
Well, COBOL, which isn't really a CMS, but it's a programming language, that would be too old. I think it's hard to find people that know that.
I took that in high school.
I didn't know you went to high school. This is news for me. Drupal,
Yeah.
Ruby,
Gotta love Joomla.
Joomla, Nothing simpler than that.
Yeah.
Squarespace would be a terrible choice because anybody can do it.
Yeah. So just flipping it around, one of your first points here is like you build the site on the platform that you want to build in.
Right.
So client comes to you and says, hey, I need a new website. And you say, yeah, we're going to build it in WordPress. Their answer is, well, everybody's going to build in WordPress.
Yeah.
But if you say, we're going to build it in Joomla, and they say, I thought Joomla was dead, they just haven't buried the body. You're like, no. That's what you think.
Right.
But Joomla is where all the freaky cool shit happens.
Right. Yeah. And even like Craft would be another option, right? Craft is basically WordPress for pretty people, but not many people program in Craft. So that would even be a better choice than WordPress. So anyway, I think people get the idea.
So you're saying it should be a really obscure platform.
Very obscure platform. Yeah.
What about a black box CMS?
Oh, that would be even better. Not one that you bought from somebody else, but one that you developed.
You built.
There's even a few that are still around that are built around the FileMaker framework, and it serves up web pages still. There's a plugin for that. That's a very excellent choice as well.
I love like going old school. Everybody zigs, you zag.
Yeah.
Okay. So platform's the first secret to the killer website.
Yeah.
Choose an obscure platform. You mentioned loading speed already, but it's the next thing on your list. You want to just hit the high point there about people think you want your site to load fast.
Yeah.
They're idiots. You don't want your site to load fast. Explain why.
You don't want it to load super fast. You don't want it to load super slow. You're really looking for that sweet spot.
Well, unless it's Flash, because it's worth it, right? Because once it's loaded, it's totally worth the wait. But go on.
I just don't want to see people spend a lot of money or think too carefully about it. I know Google, their search engine, talks a little bit about penalizing sites that load slowly. Also sites that, aren't secure.
Don't listen to Google.
Sometimes you have to. Unless they're a client, then you have to listen to Google. But in this case, all I'm saying is don't worry about the load speed. You don't want to optimize images because what if somebody's loading your site in their young teenage boy's bedroom and they have a 55-inch wide screen in there so they can see the images at full resolution? The last thing you want is to see those things so optimized that they're grainy. You don't want. So anyway, don't worry about load speed. That's basically that. We don't have to talk too much about that.
Okay, and then next you've got humanization. It's important to humanize your website. And I want to ask if dogization is a word, but let's talk about humanizing first.
Yeah. So one of the things I've noticed is that users of websites sort of want to have a picture of somebody. And ideally, that's going to be somebody that actually works at the firm. But the question always comes up, well, do we picture everybody? And what if we only have 4 people? Or what if we have 80 people? What if we're trying to project an image that we're at least a 25-person firm and we only have 4 people here? So those are tough questions that you have to think about. You can't just make a rash decision around those. So let's use the example. Let's say you want to be a 25-person firm, but you're still 4 people. You're serious 4 people. Like these are not losers at all. What you could do is you could just name everybody a leader of something, director of something. You would just say, meet some of our leaders or meet our leaders. And then you're not saying you have a lot of other people, but I think that's the implication, right? They're kind of going to figure that out. So what I don't want to see is I don't want you to have nobody on the website. So show some people, but think about how you can look bigger than you really are.
Well, isn't that what stock photos is for? If you just show...
Oh, like a big office.
Yeah, a big office with a big boardroom and everybody smile. You got every ethnicity represented. You've got all 4 genders and, everybody's smiling and there's a sales chart that goes up. The arrow goes up off the chart. You can get those photos for free and you don't even worry about the watermark on them because people just see right through those things. I think as a general photo, you could use that, but would you use stock photos for the actual people who don't exist? Or is that an ethical dilemma?
If that doesn't cross a line, it gets pretty close to it.
Yeah.
If you're going to do that, you need folks that are not easily recognizable.
Right. So this does affect your hiring practices.
Well, that's true, I guess, because you could have the same person dress up in different ways to make it look like a bigger group, too. I never really thought about that. That's something I need to think about some more, I guess, before I recommend it.
And back to my question about dogization, we've talked about this before. It's pretty important that you show some of the dogs in the firm. Have you allowed for that?
Only the dogs that haven't bit people.
Yeah.
That's kind of the limit you'd follow there. The dogs that get along, There's no such thing as a dog that weighs less than 20 pounds.
Says the guy with a 175-pound Great Dane.
If you've got one of those little yappy things that's really sort of an overgrown cat, it's not a good idea to pretend that's a dog. So,
Okay, we are rapidly alienating our audience here.
okay, sorry about that. What's next here?
Placed. Am I reading this right?
Yeah, placed. So humanized about people. Placed is, this is the other thing. When somebody's reading your website, they want to have a pen and a map in their head. They want to know kind of where you are. Partly it's like, oh, I wonder what time it is where you are. Time zone. There's 4 time zones in the U.S. Where are you? There's 32 time zones in Russia, I think. Like, where are you right now? Here's where you can get very, very creative, okay? Most people don't have a real expensive office anymore. Everybody's moved home. They're working from home.
Working from their parents' basements.
This is your opportunity to expand your footprint geographically. Right?
You now have 18 offices.
Yeah. It's not just the number, it's where they are too. So LA, New York, London, Sydney or Melbourne. Which would it be? Sydney or Melbourne?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Either one. Okay.
Yeah. Depends, is it the food or the coffee?
So this is where there is really no great benefit in being humble at this point. So now it can get a little sticky if somebody says, oh, wow, we have an office in San Diego too. Could we meet at your San Diego office? And now all of a sudden it gets a little awkward because whoever's there is going to have to start the automated vacuum and run it every day instead of every month. And if there's still a WeWork that exists or a WeCrashed or whatever those things are called, if there's one of those in your town, you could just rent that and hang pictures up and it'll look probably close enough.
Yeah. Okay. But it is an opportunity to use your website to demonstrate your geographic reach and where your people are. You have an office there. And I would say that goes for contractors too. We once used somebody in Tokyo or...
Oh, that's true.
Like, okay, I had a guy who used to edit videos for me. He lived in Paris and then he moved to Kyoto. I should be putting Paris and Kyoto on the distribution part of our website, where on the contact us.
Yeah.
Hey, we got offices in Paris and Kyoto.
You don't have to pay for long distance calls anymore. I think all plans kind of include it. So it's not like it's going to hurt the client.
Yeah. All right. What's next on this list of secrets of the killer website?
Well, one of the reasons that prospects go to your site is to just figure out how and what you think, sort of insight, or what we would call content if it's not very good, insight if it's really good. This is your opportunity to shine. I do think you ought to write this yourself, but I wouldn't necessarily have super high expectations about, like, you should write things like a dozen things to look for when hiring a firm, or how best to work with your design firm, or why we don't have account managers.
Oh, so you make your insight all about you, or reasons where the conclusion of the insight is these people would be idiots not to hire you. I get it. That's brilliant.
And it's this kind of stuff that hardly anybody else can write.
Yeah.
Especially if you write it first.
Who else is going to think of this?
Right. But one of my favorite ideas is the whole, have you seen these where you have a quiz and it might just be 5 questions or 10 questions?
Oh, I love those.
And the idea is like, yeah, answer these questions and we will give you an honest perspective about whether we're a fit. The cool thing is that it almost ends up always yielding an answer like, yes, we're a fit. So
yeah.
I kind of like how you just lead people right to the gate and they have no choice. There's such a crowd behind them. They can't step aside. They just have to crawl right through that gate and bam, they're a client. I don't know what you call that thing, a brand health quiz, or I don't know.
Yeah, they took the quiz and the answer was like, no, you need to hire us now. They'd be idiots not to hire you.
Right.
It's genius.
Yeah.
Next on the list, authority. Authority cues everywhere, right? Reasons why you should hire us. Best-selling author.
Don't you have an Amazon best-selling book?
I do.
You want to say more about that? Or is that something that everybody has?
Well, I know authors of best-selling books that have sold less than 1,000 copies.
Well, how'd they get the title? How'd they get that best-selling thing?
Well, you game the system, right? You put it for sale in an obscure category.
Oh.
And there are other things you can do to drive sales it only has to be there at any point in time. So I think it's hourly or it's like 4 times a day they do this.
Oh, okay. That kind of explains why there's so many of them.
Yeah. So your crappy book that nobody bought, if you are intelligent about it, you can become an Amazon bestseller for a few hours. And then once you have that, man, you're a best-selling book. And you know what? Too much emphasis is put on Amazon. You can just say best-selling book. Your local bookstore, you go in, you get them to carry it, and then you go in and buy all 10 copies, and then it's a best-selling book. And you don't have to name who said it was a bestseller, where it was a bestseller.
Well, that kind of fits this authority topic in my mind. So first of all, I think it's really important that you say award-winning.
Yeah.
And if you can go further and actually list the awards you've won, that's like unassailable.
Yeah. Is that really necessary, though?
Well, if you don't have them, it's not necessary, but I don't know how it would hurt you. But the point is, you need to spend the time and money entering award shows where either there's not that many entrants or the standards aren't super high and you're fairly, like local addies are perfect because that's not really about the quality of your work. That's about how much the community loves you and how many people haven't left your employment. They stay there for whatever reason. It may not be a great reason, but I can't remember where, maybe it was Adweek or Ad Age, I don't remember, but there was some article recently that said that people in procurement are regularly reading the local award shows results, and it impresses them. So they will send a list of local Addy Award winners to the marketing and the product departments and so on and say, listen, if you may already have somebody you want to work with, but this would be a good place to start. Third place doesn't count, but first and second place.
Yeah, those procurement people, they're always doing such great work. I love that they're scanning the local awards shows and sending the list of winners to marketing.
Yeah.
So the standard authority cues, you got to bang out a book and call it a bestseller.
Right.
And if you can't make it a bestseller, you're just not trying hard enough. Number one. Number two, you have to say award-winning. And for both of these, you don't have to list. But there's also like fastest growing. You should be in the Inc. 500 fastest growing company category.
5,000.
Is it 5,000?
Yeah, it's a little more liberal now. It's easier to get in it. I've heard it's going to be 50,000 at some point, but I don't know.
Oh, we're all in. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right.
As long as you're not shrinking, you're an award-winning fastest growing firm.
If you have no shrinkage issues, you can be an Inc. 5,000, 50,000 winner.
You're listening to Two Bobs, conversations on the art of creative entrepreneurship. Your hosts are David C. Baker, author, speaker, and advisor to owners of expert firms, and Blair Enns of Win Without Pitching, the sales training and coaching program for creative entrepreneurs. For more information, go to twobobs.com. If you find this podcast helpful, please help us by telling a friend and rating us on iTunes. Thank you. Now back to David and Blair.
No website is complete without a CTA, a call to action. What are your thoughts on call to actions?
Well, I think we're missing the boat here. Like everything could be pretty darn good on a website, but I just don't understand how people think here. Like there is no room for somebody coming to a website and spending any kind of time without responding to at least one, maybe two calls to action. So, you know, there's lots of ways to do this. You could have a really intriguing offer, or you could have, hey, do you need a proposal right now? Ask them 3 questions and then have some automated PDF creator that just gets them a proposal right there. Or you could put all the content, just gate everything, right? But you do not want prospects to just, in a relaxed sort of way, read your insight, quote unquote, and then move on, because that's just a waste of traffic. So call to action, like what are we trying to accomplish here? We want their money right now, or we want them to do something, or that we want them to schedule a call. Absolutely. Even if they're not qualified, we want to spend the time talking to them. So calls to action ought to be everywhere.
I love the idea of the automatic proposal generator. Like, why hasn't somebody done this? I'm looking for a new marketing firm. It's late at night. I've got my glass of Malbec. I stumble upon your website. It's like, oh my God, this is the firm for me. Look, they're award-winning.
Right. Offices everywhere.
This guy's written a best-selling book. And then it's like, hey, tell us about your problem and we'll submit a proposal right now. And I just type in like, need a new website, blah, blah, blah. And bang, there's the proposal spit out. I'm surprised nobody's doing this yet.
Imagine how much time that saves. Yeah.
Ton of time. And then you could just click to pay the $5,000 deposit.
Exactly.
This is genius. Okay, call to action. What's next?
Yeah, and then next is a drip campaign. I mean, this kind of has to be together because what are you going to do with the information you gather during the CTA process? And obviously, you're going to do something with it or you wouldn't collect it in the first place. So anybody that completes any call to action, and just assume permission here, they should automatically be dropped into a fairly aggressive drip campaign. Research is a little bit all over the place here, but my suggestion is a pretty lengthy, forceful email about every 2 days, probably.
Yeah.
You have to be prepared for people unsubscribing, and you have to allow for that legally, but you don't have to process the request very quickly. In fact, you could even just say, please allow 10 days for your request to be processed.
That's 5 more emails.
Exactly. That's why you do it every 2 days.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
Right.
Yeah, and I can imagine what's in the drip emails. Like the first one would be a coupon, like 20% off if you buy now.
If you've gotten that automatic proposal, 20% would make sense, right?
Oh, right. Yeah, just keep discounting the price.
And you just build the extra 20%.
Yeah. And then maybe like a free diagnostic, a free assessment.
Yep.
And you just keep layering on the offers. At some point, they'd be silly not to reply and take advantage of all these offers. You'll make up the money later.
Most of the time.
Get the foot in the door.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. So CTA with the drip campaign. You've got news section on here. I'm a little surprised to hear that. What kind of news are we talking about?
Well, I've also talked about sort of insight or content. So you don't want just news, but
Oh, it's news about the firm.
the firm, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't mean like a alternate CNN or something that like takes all CNN's left-leaning stuff and turns it right, or you take Fox and I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about news of the firm, the kind of stuff that this isn't going to interest everybody, but anybody that goes to your site is bound to be very interested in things like any promotions or any remodeling that you've done or anything you've done for one of their competitors that has really kicked ass and made that competitor a lot of money. And of course, you want to be very specific about that.
Or your production manager just had a baby.
Yeah, right. So which, if they're already a client, this will explain why they haven't been getting the answers they're looking for, that kind of thing.
Right.
Or maybe there's a shift in how clients are reviewing your overall services. You might explain that in here. But really what you're looking for is a constant, steady stream of news, quote unquote. It doesn't matter how relevant it is. What really matters is how often you do it. And then every one of these entries needs to be dated. And it can look a little weird if you're really regular about this. And then the last piece of news was 3 years ago, but don't worry about that. There's something called an archive. I don't know if you've heard of this, an internet archive, where there's 100 websites a day that they'll go back and they'll mirror. And the chances are that they might have picked yours up and they'll see that you strip the date out. So that's not worth the risk. But maybe weekly is too much, maybe monthly, but it could just be a press release that one of your interns are great at writing these things. Just post them up there in a news section.
What I'm hearing you say is you treat the news section like you would any other content or insight. It's like you got to post regularly. So like if you're out of news, hire somebody.
Yeah.
Fire somebody. Ask somebody to have a baby or say somebody's having a baby. Just make the news.
I'd be careful about that last.
Well,
that point is good for sure.
okay. I didn't get that, but let's keep going.
Okay.
Client criteria next on the list.
Client criteria. This one, I don't think will be too hard to understand. There's only, I don't know, probably a dozen firms that are specific about the kinds of clients they're looking for within this range and in this industry. And maybe you've used somebody before and access to the decision maker and all that kind of nonsense, But the truth is that very, very few firms are doing that. And if I have a choice in your shoes between being very specific about my client criteria and not, I'm going to go the not route because I do not want to be hemmed in. If I've decided that I want a new client, maybe we don't have enough work to do, or maybe we want to explore something new, some new opportunity or whatever. The last thing I want is to be held back by some description of the ideal client. And I don't want to put it up and take it down, put it up and take it down. I want my website to be very static. I do not want it to be changing very often. This is important. So if you want flexibility, if you don't want to have to stick to the same principles all the time in finding clients, then by God, don't put those on your website. Be very almost eager maybe not begging, but kind of eager and open and warm and, that kind of thing.
Well, cast that net wide is what you're saying.
Yeah, right.
And I think the highest expression of that is when you're talking about your audience, your client, instead of like putting any parameters around who you work for, just say you. We help you to achieve results. And then
Whoever you are.
yeah. So if I'm reading it, it's like, oh, you help me. So I'm in your client target market. You're relevant to me.
Yeah.
That's a bit of a hack. We help you to achieve results. And solutions is another good. We help you get solutions. We sell you solutions. Our solutions help you get the results that you want.
But they keep reading the word you. It's like they can't help but get a warm feeling.
Ooh, me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, on this next one, can I flip this around? This is something I haven't really studied much, but I know you've read a lot about this. Keyword stuffing, what is that about?
Well, so keyword stuffing, Google kind of shut that down a while ago where you're just like in the meta description and tags. I think it's called meta. Maybe in there they're called Facebook tags.
No, I think that's Facebook.
Where you just put all the words where people might search for. But now, look, so I see some firms who like do this really narrow positioning. If we just solve these types of problems for these types of clients, and then they get very little traffic. But they do the smart thing of if you look at the page title, so if you hover over on the tab and the page title shows up, it says, even if somebody's making a narrow claim of expertise, it says like, ad agency near me or full service marketing communication firm Denver. So the keywords that people might be searching for, don't worry that it doesn't match up with whatever more narrow claim that you're making on the website.
Oh, wow. So there's lots of them stuffed in there?
Well, the title can only be so long, but you just get it in, like whatever you think people are searching for, like more generalist firm. I really love ad agency near me, and then put your phone number in the page title too. That's a good one.
There's a firm out there, is a dental firm I read about that the name of the firm is Dentist Near Me.
Ah, that's brilliant.
So when you go to Google and you search for Dentist Near Me, bam, it's always that firm. How smart is that?
Next on our list of secrets of the killer website is contact options. Yeah, you want to list tons, right? The more ways to get in touch, the better.
Yeah, I mean, why would you have all these CTAs if you also wouldn't have contact options? Because what you're really hoping is they skip right past the normal CTA that just moves them down the funnel and they dive right down into the vat of oil, right, and hire you. So this is where you want to list every possible way because you never know exactly how they want to do it. There probably should be a direct link to your calendar. There should be your phone number, all the direct phone numbers.
Book some time with me via the Calendly link. Yeah, that's a
exactly
good one.
right.
Your mobile number.
I don't know about, probably not your home number, but definitely your office and all the direct inward dial numbers.
Would you put the fax number in there?
Oh, absolutely. Because we're looking to be differentiated, right? And most people don't have their fax number. I'm still holding on for faxes to basically come back now that they become digital.
Well, I faxed you the other day. You and I fax back and forth all the time.
Yeah. Why wouldn't you have that? So fax for sure. I think probably some sort of an automated pop-up, probably not ignorable. It should be right in the middle of the screen. You got to click through it or else your screen freezes. And that's going to give them a chance to ask, like, can I help you?
Oh, the chat bot.
Right, exactly. It doesn't have to be manned by a real person, but
Yeah.
answers basic questions and could even take appointments and maybe dials you through your Google Voice number and tries to find you and just ask them to wait and then connects you directly. I mean, there's lots of ways to. The whole point is make it easy to contact you. That's the point.
Yeah, chat bots, phone numbers, fax numbers.
Yeah.
Love it. Okay, we're getting near to the bottom of the list of secrets of the killer website. So we just covered contact options. Oh, mission, purpose, values. This is so important to the clients who are going to hire you.
It is. I didn't think so at first, but now that I've done more thinking and interviewing clients, it really does move them. And I thought this before I did some research, that they were coming to you mainly for the work that you do, like the stuff you went to school for or didn't, as the case may be. But really, if their mission, values, purpose, if that doesn't align with yours, you're probably not going to get the work. So here you need to be not so specific that you use a word that doesn't resonate with them, but you need to be very warm and inviting and talk about the things that everybody agrees with, like poverty, climate change, politics. You got to be a little careful about that.
I just worry all that's a little too specific. I would just say like doing good or doing good work for good people, because everybody's going to look at that and go, yeah, I want to do good too. We only work for good people who do good work.
Do you have to be a certified B Corp? I don't know.
Why stop at B? Maybe B plus Corp. If it doesn't exist, we could invent that, license it to people. Hey, we're a B plus corporation.
That's what marketing people do, right? They just invent shit all the time.
Or be friendly.
Yeah. If especially it's about community building.
No, I meant the animals, things about.
Oh, that kind of bee.
Because they're endangered. So talk about climate change. We're a bee-friendly corp.
That would sneak up on them, wouldn't it?
We're going to do that on our website. That's genius. Sometimes I just amaze me. Okay. Anything else you want to say on mission, purpose, and values? Because as you point out, they don't align with the clients.
There's lots to say there, but that's got to come from your heart. So, yeah.
All right. You got a last point here on time from start to finish. So how much time do you think people should spend on the site?
Longer than they think. That's the short of it, or the long of it, I guess I should say, because the danger in getting this thing up too quickly is that it does not adequately represent what everybody at the firm thinks. So however long that takes, it's more important that every single person has a voice in the creative, the language, all of the tabs and everything, the landing pages.
Oh, you're talking about the time to develop the site.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
So don't rush this is your point,
No.
because you want to make sure everybody in the firm has a say in what's on the website.
That is more important than how effective it is externally. And so if that takes a year and a third or whatever, as long as it needs to stay on your list of projects. In fact, at some point, it probably, like if you sort this list by date of inception, eventually your own website is going to sort to the top. That is not a bad thing. That's a sign that you are carefully getting and people are going to leave during that time too, right? So you'll have new employees coming along.
Oh, right.
And it's just as important. So don't beat yourself up about this. That's why, because it takes so long if it's done well, especially if you're doing it in Flash, that's why you need to start it right away. So anyway, I've just completely emptied my head of everything I know about an effective website for a firm. I hope that's helpful.
Well, it makes me think we need to redo our website. I mean, we're doing some of these things, but
there's a lot in here.
Yeah, there's a lot here. I'm just kicking myself we don't have our fax number on the website, but I'll have that fixed by the time we go live with this. David, this has been just brilliant.
Oh, thanks. Great questions, too. Appreciate the chance to work with you.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. I'm a good questioner.
Okay.
All right, David, we'll talk to you next time. Thanks.
All right. Bye, Blair.
Thank you for listening to Two Bobs with David C. Baker and Blair Enns. Subscribe and learn more at twobobs.com. That's the number 2, BOBS.com.